Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Aero here, and we are here with the first episode in our Forza 5 How to Drift series. This one is basically focusing on the build of a beginner car and some basic practice. I chose the 240SX here because it's very versatile. We can choose to have a low build or high build, a lot of power or less power, so this car will be with us for the majority of the series. It's very versatile, like I said, and can basically do whatever you ask it to. For tires, I opted to stay stock, basically because I'm going to be running low horsepower. We don't need a lot of power if we're going to be completely learning how to drift from scratch. Since the physics are so different from Forza 4 to Forza 5, I suggest that you try this at least. I kept 255s in the rear. I didn't want to go super wide, basically because, again, I'm not planning on running a whole lot of horsepower. Going to be keeping the stock engine. And I want to keep my front tires proportionate. Again, they're not, I think it's 235s and 255s was what I was running. Basically just to stay... keep the balance of the car. Wheels and rims you can do whatever you want with. You know, I was just looking through here. This is the first time I actually got into the customization options, and I don't really agree with how they set up their rims and tires, but hey, it's what we have to deal with now. It's what we're gonna have to live with. It's still separated by manufacturer, but I really don't understand how they're set apart with you know, sport and race wheels. I guess it's the lightness. Anyways, so I choose the Graham lights here just basically because it looks like a very basic wheel, you know, nothing too complicated. And here's where a lot of people tend to steer into the wrong direction when building their drift cars. They put 20s on them because they're a little silly. This is for the most part, a simulation game. You know, you're not going to be able to drift well with no sidewall. So about 17s, 18s is fine. I wouldn't go much higher than that, and too low than that is you're going to have too much tire, and you're going to feel all floppy. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you try it, you'll see what I mean. As for power, again, I'm going to try running a 300. I was shooting for 300 horsepower. You know, might be a little bit much for some. It might be not enough for some. You know, you can adjust it accordingly. That's just what I decided to do. And with Forza 5, it's not... the upgrading system is not the same, but it is the same. It's kind of weird. Different buttons do different things. If you see me go to test drive a bunch, I will accidentally, you know, press Y thinking it's going to toggle my view when actually all it does is kick me out into test drive. But again, you know, it's the same system as Forza 5. For those who are trying a different car, for this one you needed to put camshafts in it to get up to 300 horsepower. Avoid camshafts if you can. All it does is add horsepower and lower torque. We don't really want that for drifting. You want a nice horsepower and torque balance. If you have more than one, a lot more of one than the other, then it's just not going to feel right. Take like a Honda S2000 with the stock engine, for example. I'm not quite sure what the engine swaps in this game are, but they're kind of crazy. But with the stock engine, you're going to feel like there's a lot of power on the high end, but then not a lot of torque on the bottom end. We don't really want that, and especially with Japanese and foreign cars, they really struggle with having a good power to torque ratio. This stock engine in this 240SX, which I believe is the KA, it's going to be so hard to keep track of what engines are in this game. But the stock engine in this car, you know, it has a half decent torque curve, and I decided to just, you know, try it with the camshaft. Didn't end up being that bad. But as for power, again, you know, you can run a little bit less if you want. You can change it, you know, add an engine swap, whatever you want. This is just for this is what I suggest you use if you have no idea what you're doing, and you know you're brand spanking fresh new to drifting and the Forza series. You've never done it before. And you know, maybe you're a Forza vet like me, you know, coming into the new game, and you're not quite sure what to do, or you know, the physics are new to you, and everything seems weird. And it's, you know, because I tried it already, and it's kind of daunting. It's a little bit more difficult, but you know, it's nothing that I can't get used to. You can't get used to either. A lot of people tell me that you can't run roll cages, and roll cages are just weight. There's a reason why roll cages exist in real life and why they have their purpose aside from just protecting you in the vehicle. They stiffen the chassis, and that will help you, and if anything, in drifting. You know, you can choose not to run it. Again, that's still your choice. Your build is your build. I'm just suggesting what I would do. If you choose not to take my advice, hey, that's up to you. Whatever works. But again, you know, very standard, everything race with these. That's really where you got no compromises. You're going to need to tune all this stuff eventually, whether you're a beginner or you're an advanced driver. For the drivetrain, again, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but I just went for the differential to save money. You know, obviously at this point in the game, you're not going to have that much money. All I did was do the 5 tutorial quote-unquote races, and then I finally got into my own. As for Aero, as long as it's not Forza Aero, you can do whatever the hell you want. You know, I decided to keep it stock, but I went through all the options here. Forza Aero will actually create downforce, or a significant amount of downforce to your car, so that'll upset the handling, and you don't want that, at least not right now. You, at this point, again, I'm assuming that you really don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what you want. So, not to be a little rude, but hey, again, yeah, I'm just going through the options here. Very similar options to Forza 4. I think they cut some wings, and I was a little surprised about that, but at the same time, not really. Again, I'm going to back out here, I believe, and head on to test. Alright, so this is the test track. Normally, all the tracks I would suggest in Forza 4, whether you start learning Sunset, Suzuka, stuff with nice tight turns, aren't in this game. I really don't know where to look for a nice tight section yet. I think a Yas Marina might have a nice one to practice on, but this is what I chose for the time being. Again, you can choose what you're comfortable in. This is just my suggestion. This is the 300 horsepower car, which is really, after using it, plenty enough for you to just get used to. It's not really lots on these wide turns, but that's not where you want to focus on, at least for beginning, at least getting comfortable with your car. Your first step here, after having built this, you know, even if you did mimic mine, after you built whatever you built for drifting, is getting used to it, and getting used to the physics, because that's really, for returning drifters, is going to be the biggest change. It's not, it still has Forza DNA to it. It still feels Forza-ish, and but it's definitely a whole different animal. In my opinion, it feels a lot more realistic. You know, I tried doing the whole donuts in a circle thing here. I really don't believe in that. I feel like drifting is not about, you know, controlled donuts, because that's, for me, a lot easier to do. Like right here, I wasn't really having a lot of problems, but you can see, you know, at least in the turns, I am struggling. And that's kind of the cool part about this how-to series, is that I'm going to be learning with you. You know, it's not like I'm sitting here as the drifting guru. You guys are going to have to learn along with me, and I will report back as soon as I pick up on things and get used to things. But really, right now, what you have to do as a drifter, as a new drifter, as a returning drifter from Forza 4, is make something that's very easy to slide with, like my 240 here, you know, even at 86. I'm sure, I'm not sure, I haven't driven one on this game yet, but I'm sure, you know, it's a good beginner's car. Something with not a super lot of horsepower and some decent weight, so it's not going to flick on you like very, it's not going to be very snappy with transitions. The snappier the transition, the harder it is to control it. So, you know, just go around, drive around, pick a track. It really doesn't matter. I picked this one because, you know, it was very open. It was the only one that looked like it had a couple tight turns on it, which is where I like to practice. And then just kind of get used to the car and get used to the physics. You know, you might feel like the car is not handling right, you know, for you, but you might need to tune it. But, you know, if you're at the point where you don't even know where to begin tuning, don't worry about it. Just, you know, get to the point where you're comfortable, or at least semi-comfortable, and then we'll work on basic techniques, you know, maybe a little bit more in-depth in drifting, and we'll get into tuning eventually. But again, tuning is really one of the last things that you want to worry about, especially, again, if you're brand new and you just got your Xbox One and you're not really sure, you never really drifted in any video game before that wasn't Need for Speed, and you're really struggling. Just get comfortable, make sure you know the physics really well. Even you can even do this by racing. You know, if you feel a little power slide coming on, if you catch that power slide, that's still going to help you in terms of drifting. And as for assists, you know, these, again, for real newbies, you're going to run around no assists whatsoever. The only assist that I would say are okay is ABS. That's a personal preference. I like to run it without ABS, but again, that's not necessary. And you need a manual transmission. I prefer manual with clutch. Again, as soon as you get used to it, it helps you a lot. But you know, that might be too daunting for some newer players, and if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But you know, for the last time, I've been really rambling. I've been up for almost 24 hours at this point. But just get comfortable in the car, get comfortable with the physics, and then you can come back to being able to figure out your basic techniques and your tuning techniques and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for watching. Please just give this video a like if you want to see more drifting tutorial videos and how-to guides and the Drift Bible, as it were. And thank you guys very much for watching. Bear with me again as I am learning with you, because this game is definitely a whole lot different. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.